hackers can act as an immune system for our digital world because they show us our weaknesses. They force us to evolve. And there are a lot of friendly hackers out there helping us find problems. Good morning, buenos dias, bonjour, guten morzi, guten morgen, boker tov, Ohio. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm so happy to be with you today. Let me ask you something. Do you like roller coasters? Hands up in the air if you've been on a ride this past 2 days. Great. This talk is going to be a roller coaster of cybersecurity, hacking, spiders, and scary things. I hope you're prepared. It's going to be a fast talk. The Ferrari ride is about 20 seconds. This talk is going to be 20 seconds per slide. So hold on to your seats, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Let's get going. I want to start with this big number, 4,300,087,925 points. Anybody guess what this number is? I'll give you a clue. It's in a currency. It's in euro. Any guesses? Just shout them out. It's not ransomware. What did you say? So this is the estimate cost from a data breach globally, average around the world. This is what, on average, a data breach around the world costs an organization in the past year, according to data from IBM. I want you to remember this number. You got it, right? To the last point? Perfect. All of you nerds that remember pi to the 7th digit, this is for you. So we're going to take a ride to the future of cybersecurity, and I am your tour guide on this roller coaster ride, Keren Elazari. You've heard my name. My nickname is K3R3N3, so I use the number 3 instead of the letter E. And I am a friendly hacker. I know that might seem counterintuitive because we're so used to be scared of hackers, terrified, and most hackers wear hoodies and hide in basements. At least that's what we're told. Today, I want to show you a different point of view of what hackers can do. I want to show you hackers that look like this, like I was, growing up as a very curious young little girl in Tel Aviv, Israel, on the coasts of the Mediterranean, just a short 4-hour flight from here. I was so curious, I asked my parents a ton of questions as a kid. And so instead of answering all of my questions, they just gave me the encyclopedia and said, here, go through that. You'll learn everything you need. But I went through that very quickly, and in 1993, we got the internet. Finally, I could find answers to all of my questions, but I had to teach myself how the internet worked. I had to configure my modem, dial-up. I had to figure out how web pages worked. I had to bypass passwords to get into other people's computers because that's where all the answers to my many questions were. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was learning how to hack on my own until I met my hacker mentor. Her name, Angelina Jolie. In 1995, thank you, my friends. She is responsible for my career choices. In 1995, she inspired me as she portrayed a fierce high school hacker in a Hollywood movie simply called Hackers. If you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, these are not the bad guys. In fact, this group of geeks, freaks, and weirdos were my idols. They were my heroes. And Acid Burn, Angelina Jolie's character, was the leader, showing the world and Hollywood what hackers can do and how they actually save the day. So I decided 30 years ago to become a friendly hacker, just like my Hollywood idols. I've been lucky enough to be invited to speak at the international TED stage, sharing the message that sometimes hackers can act as an immune system for our digital world because they show us our weaknesses. They force us to evolve. And there are a lot of friendly hackers out there helping us find problems. So what can we learn from hackers? This is my mission in life, to show you. Hackers are early adopters. They show us where technology goes. They show us what's possible, even if the creators of that technology didn't imagine it so. Hackers can make it happen. And of course, in the last few years, hackers have showcased to us a lot of malicious innovations, finding creative, criminal ways to take advantage of technology. The most successful form of cybercrime on the planet in the last couple of years is, of course, ransomware. By the way, did you see that hacker? Oh, he ran somewhere. That's what happens when AI writes your jokes, by the way. So stand-up comedians, your job is safe. AI is not going to take your jobs away. But ransomware is a global phenomenon. According to this particular research, in the last year, 1 in every 10 organizations around the world had to deal with attempted ransomware. Now, I didn't verify this particular piece of research, but here's data we can really sink our hands into. This is information from actual cryptocurrency transactions. So a company called Chain Analysis, they specialize at tracking cryptocurrency transactions on the blockchain. And this is actual revenue, payments made to ransomware groups when their ransom requests are met. And they made more than $1 billion until February 2024. So last year was such a big year for them. Now, there's something that happened in February 2024, and we'll get to that. But I want to focus on why this is such a successful business model. It is actually because of the ecosystem that powers it. So ransomware as a service is a huge part of why ransomware and criminals are so successful with these types of attacks. Now let's double click on that for a moment. A group that really perfected the ransomware as a service model is known as Lockbit. You might have heard about them in the news. They have made a lot of impact, and they've also given media interviews, like this Russian language YouTube channel. In the interview, the creator of Lockbit, whose nickname is Lockbit Sup, says that he wants to go after every company that can pay the ransom. Every target is applicable. Now, this is what the ransom note looks like for Lockbit from the previous version, from Lockbit 2.0. There's a really specific point I want to highlight for you, so let's bring it up here. In the fine print, would you like to earn millions of dollars? Our company requires access to networks of various companies, as well as insider information. So what's happening here? They are recruiting accomplices from amongst their victims. This is very bold, and I think you'll agree with me, creative. They also took another creative idea, which, as I understand, might have been actually inspired by Soren from CloudFest. So if you're scared of feet, please don't look. But the Lockbit creator offered people money if they tattooed the logo of Lockbit on their bodies, and people did. Now, I heard the same thing happened for CloudFest. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is a really creative marketing stunt, and it's worked. Now, why do they need marketing stunts? Because they want to recruit people into their ecosystem. They want those cyber criminals to deliver that ransomware as a service model. So they need a lot of lower-level criminals to do that, whilst the core gang develops the product, makes sure the cloud infrastructure for it works, and comes up with innovations. Innovations like new versions. So in June 2022, Lockbit 3.0 came out with new tools, new capabilities, and as you can see, more advertisements. And indeed, in 2023, they had a massively successful year, going after targets like Boeing, the world's largest aero defense company, and even ICBC. ICBC is a bank you never heard of that has the most money in assets in the world. $20 trillion or something like that. ICBC is the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and allegedly this organization paid the ransom. They also went after a company I'm sure many of you are familiar with, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. They make a lot of the chips that go into a lot of the devices that you own, sell, and operate. And when this company was hit with ransom, the demand was $70 million. And what's interesting is, of course, the double extortion threat, whereby if the company does not pay, their information is leaked. This is a big part of the success of Lockbit. Another part of their success is their active collaboration with other hackers. So, for example, they have a bug bounty program. What does that mean? They're offering hackers who can find bugs in their product a reward of up to $1 million. Now, we know about bug bounties in our industry for the past decade. A lot of companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft offer rewards to friendly hackers. But these criminals offer rewards to their fellow criminals. And this model is working. They also collaborate, even with their competitors. So this is a screenshot from the Lockbit support forums. And on the top post, you can see someone called Black Cat 46 actually thanks Lockbit for their support. He says, when you have great responsibility and a dream of great success, you have to work with people. This is really inspiring. This is like Martin Luther King level stuff, right? And then Lockbit Sub says, of course, you're welcome. I'm always happy to help people close in spirit and profession. Now get this. Today, the FBI got to him. Tomorrow, they will get to me. It can happen to anyone in our hard line of work. We have to stick together so we don't get killed alone. The FBI doesn't catch us alone. It joins forces with all the special services around the world. We have to do the same. So this is unprecedented collaboration between the two biggest competitors in the ransomware world. We'll get to who Black Cat is in a moment, but Lockbit Sub, when he wrote this in December, he wasn't wrong, because 2 months later, a global collaboration of law enforcement organizations took down the Lockbit websites and leak site for about 4 days. 4 days later, Lockbit was able to revive their infrastructure and come back with a new site and new tools. However, the FBI and the UK National Crime Agency came back with a counterattack. In May of last year, they actually revealed the identity of Lockbit Sub. So if you know him, if you go to the gym with him, maybe you've seen him standing in line at the local cinema waiting for that new movie, here's your tip for a $10 million bounty. He's still on the run. But what about his friends, Black Cat? You might have known or heard about Alpha V, Black Cat, because they are behind the infamous attacks on Las Vegas casino and entertainment properties, MGM, and Caesars. Now, you've all heard about this, but I really want us to dig into the details. Both of those massive ransomware attacks into these big casinos were enabled by a few key things that Black Cat, the ransomware group, is innovative and known for. One, the infrastructure that was encrypted was VMware ESXi hypervisors. Many of you work with these systems, and that means for criminals, this is what they want to target with their ransomware. It's not ransomware for your Windows PC. It's ransomware for servers. Another innovation for Black Cat is actually the integration of intermittent encryption. Anybody here practice intermittent fasting? I'm sure you heard about intermittent fasting, where you only eat for a few hours. Well, intermittent encryption is a model for ransomware that makes it highly more efficient and harder to detect. The algorithm will only encrypt parts of the file, specific sections, and that's going to make the encryption process a lot faster, and it's also going to make it a lot harder for security mechanisms to identify that an encryption process is happening. Another innovative fact about Black Cat is that it's one of the first pieces of malware written in Rust, the programming language. Anybody here codes in Rust? No? Okay, one. A saint in the room. So Rust is a really innovative new programming language, comparatively new, especially if you compare it to C and other languages. And it's actually really efficient. It's known for its performance. It's a memory-safe language. Criminals are happy to be the early adopters for this efficient, performance-enhancing programming language. Another innovation is the integration of a specific form of social engineering, voice phishing. And when I say voice phishing, in the case of the MGM casinos, that attack was enabled because of a 10-minute phone conversation to the call center asking to reset an account for a super administrator. On the call, the speaker had a perfect American accent, and they knew all the details, which school you went to, what's your mother's maiden name, a lot of information. They had everything ready and set. And that's how they got access, and this is what let them in. Now, another really interesting fact about this particular case is that it's also one of the first stories where we have learned of an incredibly curious collaboration between a Russian-based ransomware group, Black Cat, and American and UK teenage gamer hackers known as the Community, or the COM. Some of you might have heard about this collaboration, but I really want to double down on this. By the way, anybody here afraid of spiders? I hope they don't creep you out, but scattered spider is one of the nicknames given to this group of Gen Z hackers. This is the image that CrowdStrike has for them, scattered spider. Mandiant calls them UNC 3944. They call themselves Star Fraud, and it is a sub-community of this group called the Com. And these are teenage and Gen Z hackers. One of them was actually arrested just a few months ago, not very far from here in Palma de Mallorca. So this is the image from the actual arrest, and this individual is a 22-year-old gentleman from Scotland. So these are not the traditional images of maybe Eastern European hackers sitting in hoodies. In fact, they're enjoying the Spanish coastline. And they're specialists in the cloud technologies that many organizations and you rely on. These are just some of the examples for technologies and systems where they have a really good understanding on how to use these to move inside an organization. In fact, in some cases, their understanding and their knowledge and their visibility is more than of the engineers that are supposed to protect against them. Now, another thing that they use a lot is the technique of SIM swapping. Please raise your hand if you've been a victim of SIM swapping or you know somebody that's been a victim of SIM swapping. Okay, at least a couple of you. For those who are unaware of what SIM swapping is, this is an attack technique where criminals convince the phone operator to basically reset a phone number to a SIM that's in their possession. So they can get all of those one-time codes that are sent by SMS and text messages, and they can also call a call center or support line, and it would look like they are calling from the correct number. Now, this is a basic attack that even this librarian from Ottawa in Canada is explaining to her community about. So if you as MSPs aren't aware of how SIM swapping works and how to protect against it, you need to educate yourselves about this. Because this is part of a lot of the attacks that we're seeing. SIM swapping is particularly popular amongst this ecosystem of younger hackers. And it is an ecosystem. The theme for this event is build your ecosystem. Criminals have already done that, gentlemen and ladies, so you need to up your game. It's a Gen Z cybercriminal ecosystem. According to the FBI, I didn't come up with this term, and the last year has also shown us really interesting phenomena. This is part of the roller coaster. Whilst law enforcement action has brought down or fragmented the operations of Black Cat and Lockbit, and these were the top dogs of the ransomware world until a few months ago, other players are rising to the top, and they're actually striving, they're incentivized to be more innovative and to be bolder. Groups like Clop, like Akira, like Ransom Hub. And you will hear more about these groups in the coming year, I'm certain of it. For those who are unaware, I also want to highlight that even though some of these groups, or for example, Lockbit, might seem like it's in the underground, they're still doing things. So VX Underground, which is a fantastic source for malware information, I follow their news all the time, they actually reached out to members of Lockbit in April to ask them what they're working on. And they said, we're working on new projects, we're developing new tools, specifically a new ransomware payload which targets a name of a company that I've blacked out because it is right here in the expo hall. So it's one of the companies that's right here. This is a little scary, right? I told you it's a roller coaster. We're going to have some highs, we're going to have some lows. For those who are interested to learn more from VX Underground, I think it's a really cool website, and we also need to educate ourselves with this kind of threat intelligence. So if the company that was mentioned in this public tweet doesn't know about it, they're going to have a problem. So we need to immerse ourselves in the information about what's happening in the criminal underground. Now, I mentioned Clop. Some of you might remember Clop from last summer when they had a wild ride of going after British brands like BBC, British Airways, and Boots. And this particular attack was part of the hallmark modus operandi for Clop, which is actually not going directly after these companies, but going after a provider for one of their providers. So this is a supply chain attack, but it's not even a third-party supply chain attack, it's a fourth-party supply chain attack. What do I mean by that? Some of you might remember that Progress MoveIt data transfer product that had a vulnerability in June of 2023. Within 3 days of progress announcing that there is a vulnerability, the ransomware group at CLOP already had a working exploit to take advantage of this file transfer product. One of the companies that used this file transfer product is called Zealous, and they're actually a third-party payment provider for all of these British brands. They help them pay people. It's part of their human resources paradigm. So this is a fourth-party supply chain attack, going after a data transfer product to get into a payment provider, to get into all of these companies. And this is where the drop comes. This is where it gets really scary for you, my friends, the MSPs and the vendors. You guys and girls, you are a threat magnet for criminals, if you hadn't realized it. It's that third-party remote management and monitoring software, file transfer movement software, cloud visibility software. This is where criminals are now focusing their efforts. Now, there's also some good news. Don't panic. It's organic. So there is a decryption tool set available for a lot of the successful and popular ransomware strains. This is a website called nomoreransom.org. It's an international collaboration. It's an ecosystem with solutions or cures, if you will, for some of these major ransomware strains. However, it's just a cure. It's not prevention. It's not vaccine. How can we vaccinate ourselves against these ransomware threats? Well, first, we must learn from their tactics. So let's review just a few of the things I told you about them. They're using the cloud with their ransomware as a service model. They have a global footprint going after targets big and small in Asia, Europe, North America, and worldwide. Creative revenue streams with double extortion threats, product evolution, new versions, multi-platform, new programming languages, technical innovations like intermittent encryption, fast and wide deployment. As soon as there is a vulnerability or a hint of a vulnerability, within hours they create a working exploit to take advantage of that, and active collaboration within their ecosystem. This is what we need to be doing. This is fearless innovation. This is building their innovative, creative, malicious ecosystem. And I haven't even said the G word yet. G for generative AI. By the way, this is my favorite transformer. That's Optimus Prime in the background. But for criminals, there are now a lot of malicious generative AI models and large language models, including some of these choices. You can play around with them. I recommend that you experiment and understand what are the capabilities. For example, WormGPT, which calls itself the biggest enemy of ChatGPT. And in this example, WormGPT is asked to write malware in Python. And immediately it complies and starts writing it. It's not very good or sophisticated malware, but it can write it. Here, it can be used to write a convincing business email compromise email, an email that should be directed to an account manager and would instruct them to urgently pay an invoice. It should appear to come from the business's CEO. Another example, perhaps even closer to your hearts as MSPs and technology practitioners, this is Predator AI. 16,000 or 11,000 lines of Python code, terrible user experience, but a practical automation and AI platform to scan and exploit malconfigured or badly configured or unsecured cloud servers, WordPress servers, Drupal, Joomla, vBulletin, and a lot of other popular platforms. And the criminals who created this put their Telegram username on the advertisements. They're selling this to other hackers. Another example is Ransom Chat GPT. So this is a ChatGPT plugin that's been trained on ransomware negotiations. Now, don't try and download this because OpenAI has actually removed it from their application ecosystem, but there are a lot of others, and some of them are actually useful for us as defenders. So I want to run by this list very quickly. I hope you're following because there's about 100 of them. So yes, please take a photo. And you can go to this GitHub where a security researcher called Thomas, or I know him as Frogger, curated a list of GPTs and other agents, AI agents, that are useful for cybersecurity research, defensive and offensive. So I hope you've had a chance to copy that. It's a really useful tool. Now, these are the classic attack vectors that we deal with in the industry. And you've heard this, you know this: phishing, credential theft, and direct exploits on remote VPNs or remote desktop connections. These are all of the classic vectors that we deal with in how ransomware gets in. But when we bring in the factor of generative AI, it's a love story for the new age. Because for phishing, text translation, versions, different variations can be created, and it can be done 100 times or 10 times faster. For credential theft, stuffing, and harvesting, again, automation, password hash cracking, everything can happen a lot faster. And certainly with remote exploitation and scanning, and we saw this with Predator, again, automation and AI is helping bad guys. Now, I imagine you heard about this story of the German CEO that got a call from his UK colleague, or maybe it was the UK colleague that got a call from his German CEO, instructing him to urgently transfer $243,000, and it's followed up on an email that looked legitimate, and the money transfer went through. You've heard about this story, right? Newsflash, this happened in 2019. Criminals have had 5 years to perfect and innovate on this criminal business model, combining deep fakes with business email compromise, with SIM swapping, with multi-layered attacks that are all financially motivated. In some cases, they might also be motivated by fame and notoriety. So a specific business email compromise attack tried to hijack the money transfer for a player transfer of a Champions League football club. I'm not going to mention which one. But this was actually caught by the bank. So the bank saw the transaction and understood that something was off there, and that's how it was stopped. Power of an ecosystem. Sometimes the banker is the person that's going to stop a cyber attack. We've heard about deepfake voice generators. We know about deepfake videos. We now have deepfake video conference calls. Recently, a gentleman in Hong Kong was duped in a conference call with 10 of his colleagues and his chief financial officer, all of them portrayed by deepfake algorithms speaking to him live on a video conference. Now, I didn't believe the story at first, so I dug into it. This is the police report from the Hong Kong Police Department explaining the criminals trained the AI models on videos of those specific individuals. And these are the capabilities that we have to defend against. So in short, my friends, we are dealing with what I refer to as a criminal renaissance. Creativity, innovation, use of new tools, performance, effectivity. This is what we're dealing with. And what they are putting at stake, what they are taking away from us is not just our credit card numbers or our money or our cloud servers. They're taking away trust. They're hurting the trust that we have in our digital ecosystems. This is what we have to work together to build. As security practitioners, as service providers, we have to build trust, and that's why we need to build our ecosystems. This is why I really like the event's theme. Of course, you can go at it alone, see how lucky you'll be when the stormtroopers come to you. We are stronger together when we work in an ecosystem, when we learn how to collaborate with AI. We're not competing with AI. We have to understand how to collaborate. Of course, you can ignore all of my advice. I'm sure you'll be fine. Nothing wrong is going to happen. But criminals are adapting. They're not staying behind. They're going after our technology. They're going after our psychology. We have to do things differently. If you or your customers are still kind of kicking back, looking outside and thinking about how security used to be, how life used to be nice in the nice, chilly data center with the neon lights, my friends, you're living in the BC age. BC, before cloud, before COVID, before the technology landscape changed. What we need to do as service providers and security practitioners is help people and edge devices and IoT devices and any computing device be the first line of defense. And where you can find business, where you can find more revenue, is if you can help people make better everyday security decisions. Bake cybersecurity into products that make their lives easier, not harder. This is where your clients will find a return on their security investment. And this is what's going to help you build your business. If there's one thing that we need to invest in, I believe, is better visibility, because we can't protect what we can't see. And now, in closing, I want to give you some practical pieces of advice on things you can build in your business to help your customers. Red team testing, threat modeling and threat hunting, detection and response hands-on knowledge, awareness training, and tabletop exercises, TTXs. These are services and products that you can sell, that you can give, that you can provide to your customers, and they will be that much safer thanks to you, and they will be grateful. Everybody had a chance to take a photo? Good. Ultimately, what it all comes down to is that hackers are really good in two big qualities that we need to take to heart: resilience and innovation. And we need to do the same. Is it time to keep calm and carry on? No, it's time to adapt and evolve. Thank you so much for your time and your attention this morning. Thank you for going on this ride with me.